no one's going to really know the answer except you. And therefore, there's no apologies needed if you decide that this relationship's not going to work, or if you decide it is going to work. But the little things, yeah, also relate to the red flags that you saw in the relationship. They aren't little things, they are worth their weight in gold. They are very meaningful. You can't see what you already saw. You can't ignore a feeling that you already had. And again, this relates to your health. That pain in your stomach, that headache, that migraine, that itchiness, that um it's there for a reason, and it's trying to get your attention. So best that you start looking at all these little things, doing all these little things, because it is so important. Welcome to I Think I Can podcast. My name is Luella Young. I am a woman who believes that we, like wine, get better with age. Age brings us wisdom, intuition, and a level of sophistication that is beyond the reach of youth. I am here to tell you that living a luxuriously rich and fulfilling life is in your reach. I Think I Can podcast will teach you to think differently in order to get different results. Allow me to show you how to do life effortlessly. This podcast is for the woman who is tired of playing by the rules of society, community, religion, parents, and partners. I Think I Can is all about becoming brave, authentic, purposeful, and strong. Listen weekly, and you will find yourself living a life you could have only once dreamed of. Thoughts drive our physiology, so channel your thoughts with me into a life truly worth living. Enjoy the show. Excuse the short little interruption. I just thought would be important for me to announce that I now have a suite of masterclasses up on my website, which is just luellayoung.com. Type in my name in Google and you'll find all my social media links, etc. But the master classes I felt inclined to create because I want to take the client on a journey towards their dream, a journey towards joy, happiness, and peacefulness. And I start the year off in, you could say, the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, talking about relationships, because it's only once we're in a relationship that we really get an idea of who we are, how people see us. And we have to realize that how people see us is really a bit of a reflection of what's going on in our subconscious. Sometimes we don't see our patterning. We don't see how we are, these patterns evolve in us mainly through our upbringings, mainly through our external environments, whether that's societal programming that we've picked up, or parental programming. But both of those things sort of take us away from our true self, the essence of who we are. And relationships can really bring that out, how you interact with someone. So January, February, March, we dive into a lot about relationships, communication, even finding your soulmate or healing from an affair. Just take a look. There's classes. There's going to be classes on each, and if you've missed some that have occurred already, um, you can watch the replay. The links will all still be there, and Yeah, I hope you enjoy taking a look at them and the client journey. And I feel like one of the reasons I wanted to create this is it's much more accessible for people. Sometimes therapy is not as affordable as we would like, or coaching is not as affordable as we would hope. But this might give you a greater chance of getting the help that you need on specific topics. So yeah, enjoy and let's begin. So let me just stress here that it is all the little things that make a difference. It's little things done often, small things done often, the little things in life that make the difference. This is true for so many aspects of the human, whether it's taking the stairs rather than the elevator. And, you talk yourself out of it and you say, oh, I'm in a rush. It doesn't really matter. Oh, if I can't do the full hour workout today, there's no point going. Um, really, what's 5 minutes of meditation going to do for me anyway? Um, yeah, I know it's important to read books, but why bother? That crossword puzzle, do that every day. I got so many other things to do. It's the small little things in your relationship. Yes, it's the greetings. It's the acknowledgement that the other person's in the room. Yes, it's giving that person your full attention when they're speaking to you. Yes, it's getting used to having difficult conversations, um, not shying away from conflict, because you got to realize done early in the relationship become habits. And as same as taking the stairs, same as doing the meditation. It's tough at first, but it becomes natural and easy. So the small things often do make a big difference in your health, in even as it relates to trauma. Let me just say that some people that have been trying to process trauma most of their lives are, aware of um, what it takes to process trauma and reflect. You've probably come across or heard the term big T, little t. Big T referring to big traumas, or like maybe the medical system might call PTSD. But there's a lot of other traumas, or, seeing a car accident, or someone dying in front of you, or um, whatever. I mean, so much trauma and war, etc. But again, I almost argue that it's not the big traumas so much as it is, and I've spoken about this before, it's about the tiny little whittling away of our self-worth, our self-esteem, our self-love. And in childhood, this might be, a parent and child not making connection on a regular basis, for the parent not acknowledging the child for who the child is, rather than acknowledging the child only when the child gets great marks, only when the child shares their toy, only when the child brings you that item or anything like that. It's the child is just good. The child is just good. And giving that one-on-one connection to that child is what's going to make the difference in life, right? So in terms of big trauma, little traumas, it it's the little things that add up. It's the little things that are worth their weight in gold. So this conversation is about all those little things that you didn't see as being important when you first chose that one person, and perhaps settling on, um, the fact that they checked off the big boxes when it comes to what's important in a relationship. Um, I mean, I have even used this term when clients are telling me, should I stay, or asking me, I should say, should I stay or should I go? Or how do I know this is the one? I've used this term, and I think there's a lot of experts, relationship experts, that have said this as well, is they've asked the client, do you feel this person has your back? Now I realize that's the bare bones in some ways. Yes, they have my back. Um, but how about all the other little things that they don't have throughout my days, months, and years with them? Because let's be honest, your neighbor, your neighbor next door that has known you for 30 years might also have your back. Um, they're going to be the people that help you in a crisis, right? Like, I mean, I know, yes, this person will be by my bedside when, I have to go in for a big surgery, but I don't know. I think it's more than just have your back, because if you don't, if your soul is not fed in other little tiny things throughout your relationship, it might not be enough. And only you can say that. No one other person, because no other person is you. And that's why I think there's going to be relationship books and relationships experts, and there's going to be talk and talk and talk about relationships until, you know, but no one's going to really know the answer except you. And therefore, there's no apologies needed if you decide that this relationship's not going to work, or if you decide it is going to work. Um, but the little things, yeah, also relate to the red flags that you saw in the relationship. They aren't little things. They are worth their weight in gold. They are very meaningful. You can't see what you already saw. You can't ignore a feeling that you already had. And again, this relates to your health. It did that pain in your stomach, that headache, that migraine, that itchiness, that um it's there for a reason, and it's trying to get your attention. So best that you start looking at all these little things, doing all these little things, because it is so important. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I Think I Can podcast. It's a solo episode, and I am speaking about, well, relationships. I speak a lot about relationships because honestly, it's really hard for a lot of people. I mean, even if you feel like you have a solid relationship, there's going to be times where it's really difficult. So I mean, honestly, I think about it a lot, and if I can prevent people from stepping into, well, a marriage or a relationship that's not working for them, any sort of committed relationship, if I can help people to avoid a relationship that's, eventually going to crumble, then that is something I would love for the world. Or when, I mean, another huge part is when people are in um unhealthy relationship, what can I do to help them through that and maybe gain more clarity. And I think with more clarity and understanding, people are able to make better decisions, right? And if you followed my work at all, you probably know that I stress a lot about self-reflection and how it needs to start from within first rather than focusing on all the things that are wrong with your partner. So, I mean, honestly, with most things in life, if we can prevent, you know, our like problems in our life, we should be more on that trajectory of prevention rather than fixing it once it's already broke. So I also like, I find when in doing functional medicine, there's so many similarities when it comes to health. And we always think physical health, but of course there's mental but there's also relationship health, it's sort of what makes a healthy relationship. And I think about functional medicine here because it's the same thing. Like we want to be preventative. Like we want to do the good things for our body before a disease settles in our body. So anything that's related to decreasing inflammation is a good thing for our body. And this is not an episode all about, physical health. So I'm not going to talk about it too much, but any stress in our body, and if we're stressing about relationships and connecting with another person, that's also going to affect our physical health. And that's why it is so important. So the other day I was thinking, how if it was more preventative, like let's talk like rather than thinking, okay, it's broken now, how do I fix it? If I was to, look in the rear view mirror and like, I mean, I try to help people do this as well. It's like, where, why, if I'm struggling like this right now, how did that happen? Because let's face it, when you connect with a person, it is it's all rainbow unicorns and you're you're in that honeymoon stage where it's like you are on a high. And again, this is very hormonal and so many people can talk about this. Um but then like, so what happened? Because you did have that. So a lot of people will sit with that and go, what happened here? Like, I mean, I remember when we first connected and it was, I had all that. But as I noted in a recent interview that I had, and I think it was the episode previous to this, or yeah, it was with Dr. Lieberman. If it wasn't before this, you're going to hear about it later. But it, yeah, I mean, he spoke about that. He just said, it's not what people think. It does dwindle, and it's up to you to keep that going. But if I had to go back and think about, okay, so how can I help people prevent getting into a not so great relationship? So I thought about, well, first of all, there's no one throughout the experience that I have, there's no one reason to me why a relationship doesn't work, right? Wouldn't that be great if people would say, "Oh, like let me be more preventative. I'm going to come and see you. I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to find out, if I'm feeling this way, is that a reason not to continue this relationship, or should I dive into it?" There's no one reason why relationships don't work. Um, 1 second here. I'm just gonna. Okay. But if I would give you some of the examples that I've heard from people, okay, it could be, pressure, maybe pressure from your partner or from a family member, um, or like yourself. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm 29. Um, I, I have to just, get married and just sort of like, we've been together for 4 or 5 years. It's likely, hardly likely this is the person for me, and there's the added pressure of time. Um, some people have said, I was going through a bad time in my life, and it makes sense to me now that I would have connected with this person. Like perhaps, you were abusing drugs, or maybe you were in the wrong crowd, or whatever that might be. These things that I'm saying to you right now are more the obvious, like people that have broken free from the relationship. And when they look back, they have these reflections with me. And they don't really have regrets, um, in terms of moving past that relationship, because, as I said, these things are quite clear and quite obvious to them. Um, Oh, well, I mean, sometimes you've had a child with this person, and it seems like, again, the right thing to do. We have a child together now. Um, and let's face it, when you do have a child with somebody pre, um, prior to your marriage, then I think just having a child together really connects two people, right? It's like, whoa, look at this. We created this human being. It's another huge form of connection. Um, Sometimes it's crazy things, like it was convenient. Like, oh, the lease was expiring on the condo, and the condo I was staying on, and he has his own house, and it just made sense. Well, not so much, right? Looking back, hindsight 2020. Um, Another one that I hear from women that are very empathic, um, women that are people pleasers, will say, I didn't want to hurt him. I did, you know, he seemed so happy, and I didn't want to hurt him. Well, I mean, again, hindsight 2020. I mean, it's a two-way street. Like you both need to be happy. Just because one person seems to be extremely happy in the relationship, that's not a reason to stay with somebody. That you didn't want to hurt their feelings. This is not like not liking a tie they're wearing. This is like the rest of your life together, right? So it's a big deal. So those obvious reasons, I mean, again, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just sort of, I'm going off what some people have told me. Now, what's not so obvious, though, is I think what keeps people stuck in relationships for years and years and years. Like we're talking, maybe gray divorces after 30 years, 20 years of marriage. And they realize they just can't do it anymore. They're kind of confused. It's sort of a, how did we get here? And I'm still not really seeing the clear picture. Now, again, for people who know me, know that I'm a big believer in doing a lot of inner work. You have to do the inner work before you make the final decision. And there's so many reasons for that. But I mean, obviously, you could potentially make a very bad choice, because if you don't know yourself, as a person, and you're still perhaps stuck in, you know, trauma or deep wounds might be impeding you from actually seeing who you are. You're stuck in sort of like a behavioral pattern in that's cemented in your subconscious that you're not even aware of. So speaking to somebody, speaking to a therapist, speaking to a coach, speaking to any professional is going to help you with that. At least get the ball rolling. And then, you can do a lot of this on your own too through journaling, um, meditation, being much more in the moment, awareness of your actions, and awareness of how your body's feeling when you're having this interaction with somebody. I speak a lot about that as well. There's different stages to self-growth and evolution, but we have to go through it. Like, it makes us a better person. It makes us a happier person. So by going through this, at least again, you're going to have the clarity and the understanding, and um, a lot of self forgiveness too, and rid of guilt that I'm doing this because I can't be somebody that I'm not, and I'm making this decision to step into a new world, a new me, an independent me, or perhaps a me that eventually meets somebody else. We don't know what that is, but but it's often fear and guilt, shame that's keeping you from not doing that difficult move. So if I went into some of the not so obvious reasons, and again, this is different for everyone, but sometimes you just become two different people, and that's okay. Like, someone could be growing, evolving, understanding themselves a lot more, doing lots of reflective work, and understanding, what makes them tick, as they say, or, this is something that lights me up. This is something that's actually very meaningful for me. And once you start understanding that, it becomes less complicated, because, like, you were always this person. That's what a lot of people get confused about. It's like, well, I'm a new person now. No, you're not a new person. You were always this person. You just didn't really analyze who you are. You didn't take the time to discover who you are. And again, that's related to your childhood, right? It's sort of, I mean, if you have a problem with anxious attachment, or knowing that you're worthy without needing someone's approval, validation of your worthiness, acknowledgement of your worthiness, recognition of your worthiness. It's not about my marks. It's not about my achievements. It's just me being who I am. And once you start understanding that you and all your quirks and your flaws and your that combined with all the things that make you amazing, unique, um, funny, it's sort of like, just knowing that I'm enough, and I always was enough, and I don't need any of those other, you know, so-called achievements in my life, whether that's your career, the big house, the whatever things that you thought made you happy. Um, that's not a reason. So, like that's correlated to your worthiness. It's as I think as we age and we become more wise. We realize I could be happy living in a tent down by the river. And yeah. So, but again, we don't have this wisdom when we're 20, when we're 16, when we're 29, when we're 32. It takes a while. So, um, it's okay to know that what's meaningful to you is not necessarily as meaningful to someone else. And I think a lot of, unfortunately, why we choose a certain relationship, I think there's a lot of stress that's put on to us by our parents, very likely through our community, through social media, about, I mean, even the church. uh, what what is meaningful, what is going to carry you through a relationship and what is not. I mean, we've all done it, right? I'm sure we've all been there where in our youth, especially, that we're kind of going, I don't know. Okay, again, I'm a woman, so just realize this is a woman's perspective. It's sort of like, yeah, like I like this and this and this about him. So you're weighing out the pros and cons, and you'll get that suggestion from your friends, of course, right? It's sort of like, well, have you gone through the pros and cons? Um, and so you might have even gotten out a blank sheet of paper, drew a line down the center, and go, "This is what I like, and this is what maybe I don't like." Then you look at the sheet, and under "This is what I like," you are going to see the obvious things, or I shouldn't say "This is what I like," or it should be um, "This is what I like." This is what society sees as important in a relationship. This is the backbone of any relationship, let's say. And I'm gonna think like, like, to me, it's sort of generations ago what they would have done. Like maybe, June Cleaver taking out a blank sheet of paper and saying, okay, he's a good provider. He has a good job. Um, he's stable in his job. Um, he seems to be a good father. uh, he has what it takes to be a good father, perhaps. I mean, I don't even know. How do you know? How do you know someone's a good father until you have that baby and they become a father? But I mean, generally, I think it might be like when I see him interact with his nieces and nephews, or the way his face lights up when he sees a baby, or um, you maybe overheard him having conversations with his buddy who is now a father, and he seems whatever. So you got that going. He's a good provider. Oh, he's handy. He's a handy guy. He came over and fixed my fridge the other day, in my condo, and he has a way of fixing things, and he likes yard work, and he cleans out the yeast troughs, and yeah, he takes care of the structure of the home, you know? Um, so that's going for you. And then what else? Oh, we're of the same religion, or we're both spiritual, perhaps. Obviously that's going to make your life a lot easier. But it's gonna make your life a lot easier because your parents are in agreement to the marriage, right? Like, let's be honest. Because sometimes the religion and I mean, I don't know, spirituality might have connected you, but it's not necessarily going to hold you together, because there's been a lot of people that are religious that, are divorced, or maybe had to ask for annulment from the church, and that be granted, right? I mean, there's having a backbone of religion is definitely not enough, but it makes, let's face it, it makes the family dinners a lot more quiet or whatever. But so what else? Other big contributors, I'm going to say key provider, appearance. Yeah, I mean, hmm, family, religion, provider, like just stable. Like, maybe this person's just stable. Whatever that means. I mean, there's people, I mean, they're not heavily addicted to a substance. I mean, sometimes people still get married when they know the other person. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. They probably don't know how addicted they are. Perhaps the other person has been hiding it for many years, their addiction, believe it or not. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, again, the not so obvious is that this person was not honest with you in the first place. So that could be a reason. Um, well, you know what? Like, I'm going to bring something up on my screen right now. If you're not watching this on YouTube, no worries. I'm going to explain it well enough that you don't need to. But let me do some screen sharing here. Okay. So I just wrote this out this morning. It's just me making some scratchy notes, but what like a strong relationship. I have the title, it's worth its weight in gold. Now, I have a seesaw here, and the seesaw, and again, I got this image from in functional medicine. When we talk about cholesterol, we talk about big fluffy cholesterol as like, um it's your LDL cholesterol. It can be big and fluffy like beach balls, or it can be small and dense like marbles. So I use that analogy because unless we actually look at the particle size and weight, we don't know how um, um, potent this can be. So I see the same thing in relationships. So the big fluffy meatballs are what I just spoke to you about. Those, did I say meatballs? I don't know. The big fluffy beach balls are those things I just told you about, the obvious things, like what your family is really like pulling you towards. Is he a good provider? um what's the religion? Is he stable? Does he fix things well? Is he handy? No physical abuse. Okay, all the obvious things. And a person goes, okay, well, those things align to my values and they're important to me. Well, of course, that's great. That's why you're attracted in the first place. But I'm going to question you now. Is that what's worth its weight in gold, or could it perhaps be the little marbles that take up the same space as the big fluffy beach balls, but there's more of them, more marbles, and obviously they're heavier. So they take up the same space, and it's the density and the weight of the relationship that is most important. So, for example, some of these marbles could be, this person is a good dresser. This person has deep conversations. This person has an entrepreneur kind of personality. He likes to try new things. He's creative. He's a risk taker. He has empathy towards someone. He doesn't make racist comments. Um, he's intelligent. He loves music. He plays music a lot. He's a good cook, or he makes me laugh. He's a good storyteller. He's non-judgmental, for the most part, and for the most part, he tries not to be critical, because we're all human and we all make these mistakes, and yeah, and he makes me laugh. Like, if you would look at see, like, these things, some people might describe these things as very surface level. Well, you're not gonna not go, you're not gonna not get married because he's not an athlete. You're not gonna get married because he, I don't know, um, oh, he works night shifts or something like that, right? Like, I mean, but I tell you, night shifts and being on a different circadian rhythm with a person can really affect a relationship. Or, you know, a lot of those marbles that I just listed right now, a lot of people could say that's so surface level. Like, really? Come on. What's the more meaningful things in life? Oh, I wonder what what is more meaningful? You know, I don't know. This is just something I want people to talk about, because it, even myself as a Gottman therapist, the Gottmans really stress it's the little things done often that keep a relationship together. So if we looked at it at the relationship in that lens, then doesn't this make sense? That, you know, if these things come up often, let's say I love playing music. Um, let's say you love playing music. He loves playing music. You hate cooking. He loves cooking. Um, and he just came back from the gym and he's playing music. He's cooking a dinner for you, and he's talking about like a deep, I don't know, political or philosophical conversation, and he cracks a joke once in a while, and he's, whatever, like all those little things all at once is going to be a big deal. If you get all those little things in one day, that might make you be okay with the fact that he didn't clean the eavesdrops out, um, you know, on Saturday. Um, and he didn't go to church with you on Sunday. And, you know, it's just a different way of looking at this, I think, because so often, we stress all these other things. Um, and I don't know if that's really the way to go about, well, put it this way. I guess I think a lot of people stay in very unhappy relationships because they're looking at all the big, fluffy beach balls that are sitting right in front of them, that are taking so much space. Meanwhile, they're falling and breaking their neck because they got all these other like marbles on the floor that that's killing them. And it makes for a really unhappy relationship. So maybe, it's time to rid the guilt, the shame, and realize that all those other little tiny things done often are extremely meaningful and carry their weight in gold in a relationship. So I'm going to end here, but maybe do this exercise. Maybe see if all the tiny little things that are very meaningful for you in a relationship are of, are there. They're part of your big picture in terms of what makes a relationship. And not to see that as very surface level. Because it's directly connected to who you are as a person. For some people, humor is not a big deal. For you, it might light you up. For some people, um, having a clean house is not a big deal. For you, it's everything. Outer order, inner calm, as Gretchen Rubin says. And if you're met with these things every single day, it's a big deal. And I listed out, what, maybe 15 things at the most, these marbles, but think about all the other ways that it's affecting, all the things that affect you, all the things that are very meaningful for you, all the things that you're missing, and stop ignoring those things. Okay. Well, I always be like, when I have these deep conversations about relationships, it's sort of like, okay, on that happy note, have a great week. And but hey, it's serious, and it's time you start looking at this and doing the work that you need to do, because there is happiness on the other side. There truly is. Okay, take care, and we'll see you next week. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.